Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Over Unders. We are getting to the final divisions in MLB starting today. American League West. Obviously, we'll get to the National League West right after this for the final division in baseball that we still yet to cover. But as always in this series, it is I, Dramani DePena, alongside my main man, Matt Hanafan. Today, Matt, we're talking about the American League West. Matt, literally the eve of opening day. How are we feeling? How do you feel about talking about the AL West today, and how do you feel about baseball going to be hijacking our lives for the next 6+ months?
Well, I still also have the NBA to deal with, but that's
That too.
neither here nor there. But no, man, opening day is tomorrow. Very excited, very happy. Again, like the start of spring training. I think I said this on a previous episode, but like the start of spring training, it's like, okay, awesome, baseball's back. Then it's like, oh wait, it's actually spring training. And so then you're just like, well, okay, that kind of takes not the fun out of it. There's obviously still stuff that you want to look out for to a certain extent, but it's just like, all right, get me to opening day. And now opening day is officially upon us. Um, so yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm pumped. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, I'm right in the same booth with you, man. I can't wait. And it's like I can hear the catcher's mitts and just, like just nothing beats opening day. I feel like it's like the best time of year or the best premiere of any sport out there, like NBA opening night, whatever you can call like opening night for the NFL. Nothing beats opening day. I think
Oh,
that's just
well, opening night for the it's just the first week.
yeah, yeah, premiere week or something like that. I feel like baseball opening day kind of triumphs over all that, but again, that's my personal opinion. But regardless, let's get right into it. The AL West. Let's start from bottom of the barrel. Let's start with the LA Angels. And actually, before we start talking about the LA Angels, guys, if you haven't seen any of the other divisions that we've covered, there's a playlist on the YouTube channel already. So you guys can feel free to go and check those videos out after you guys finish watching this one. But regardless, LA Angels, or pretty much Mike Trout's team. But the LA Angels are slated to, well, the projection is 71 and a half wins. Obviously, mentioning Mike Trout. Mike Trout is kind of been, you're not sure what you're going to get from Mike Trout in terms of health wise. And in my opinion, when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the game, still is, even though I believe he's 33 or going to be turning 33, pretty much entering his mid 30s. The Angels have made moves, not necessarily, I would say, good ones, depending on who you ask. And also they have financial commitments to like some Anthony Rendon, who went down with an injury yet again, and he's likely going to miss all of this season. But if you ask him, I'm pretty sure he doesn't give a rat's ass. But Matt, I want to send it over to you. So, how do you feel about the Angels, and kind of like what could we expect? Do you go over or under with the Angels?
You said 71 and a half.
71 and a half.
I would probably lean the under, but it's not. I mean, I think it's either them or not. I was gonna say Oakland, but they're not in Oakland anymore. Um, it's either them or the A's who are bottom of this division. I'll probably say the under just because, like, I think, like, yeah, they added Soler, they added Moncada, they added Kikuchi, they added a ton of people. Um, Ron Washington's like second year there, obviously not a great first season. In Los Angeles, Mike Trout, to your point, hasn't really his last healthy season or fully healthy season where he played at least 130 games was in 2019. That was before COVID-19. That's ages ago. Um, he is still very, very good when he's on the field, but that's a big win nowadays. Like it to me. This is a team like I'd have to look up the contract situation for these guys, which I'm doing right now. Like Trout still has a number of years left on his deal through 2030, so that's not at all like a discussion. Obviously, you mentioned Rendon earlier; he's been oft injured. They added Tim Anderson was another name that they and like I think he was like a non-roster invite. I'm pretty sure he's making the roster. Can't 100% confirm that for you. Um, like Soler, 2 years left on his like it was just a 2 year, $26 million contract that he's on. Moncada was 1 year, 5 million. They have Kevin Newman, JD Davis. Like they have guys who I think they'll just trade at the deadline. Travis Darno's there, 2 years, 12 million. Like, I think this will be a team that like maybe not. I don't want to say like they're like, get off to a hot start or anything like that. Like, I think they'll be like I don't know on like a 75-80 win pace until the deadline, and then they start trading players away. Um, and then they'll just be the Angels again. So bad. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of where I see this team. Again, I not to say I dislike some of the moves they had with Soler or Moncada. Like Soler's a monster. Like we've seen what he's capable of. Just look back at not Braves last year, but the first time he was traded there. Helped him win a World Series. Again, Darno's fine when he's healthy, but he's also 36. Like Kikuchi's solid, but he's also going to be 34 soon. Like, there's a lot of players who they acquired who like are solid players, but they're entering their mid 30s, and maybe it's just the NBA brain part of me, but I'm just like, ooh, whenever I see something like that. But this team isn't under for me, if I'm being honest. Probably like 71 wins, maybe.
I would agree with you on many points. I'll get to Mike Trout last. I want to talk. I'm always going to be a Jorge Soler supporter because like I saw that guy hit a moonshot in Fenway in person. So like and ever since then I'm like this dude's the man. He's awesome. I love Jorge Soler, and so I think for him I don't care pretty much what else he provides outside of home run power. If he stays healthy, he's good for 35 plus home runs on some of his better years. Like you got other guys like you said. It seems like this is a team that would kind of just blow up the roster. Once again, like to your point, their best case scenario is kind of how the Angels were a couple years ago. I believe in like 2022, they were like obviously when Shohei and Mike Trout were on the roster together, they were really good through I believe like the first half of the season, or they had a good stretch, and then it just fell off the rails and they just stuck around 500 the entire rest of the year and just didn't go anywhere. And this is when guys like Taylor Ward were having great seasons. Their first baseman at the time, I believe his name, it's Walsh, something Walsh. I forget his first name for the life of me, but I was gonna I was gonna say was no, it's not Jordan Walsh, that's Celtics.
That
So
yeah, different sport.
different sport, but it's Walsh. I forget his first name for the life of me, so I apologize. But it was guys like that. They were getting big seasons from those guys, and yeah, it just fell off the rails, and that seems like that was just the story of the Angels the last few years. And yeah, so
Jared
like
Walsh.
Jared Walsh, thank you. And then yeah, and then now like obviously like I like um what's his name? Zach Neto. I
Yeah,
think their
Zach Neto's
shortstop.
good.
I really, really like Zach
Yeah.
Neto. So I wanted to make sure to bring him up because honestly, like if Trout's injured, I think he's the best player on that team, and he kind of showed it as much. The way he
Well,
was
he's
playing last
also,
year.
I think, injured or recovering from an injury at least.
Yeah, it's like the story of the Angels, with the injury bug and everything. And it's kind of like the whole thing with Artie Moreno. It's like, it kind of just seems like the Angels kind of put themselves as an organization in this position because, obviously, talking back a couple years ago when Shohei Ohtani was still on your books, like you could have easily traded him for a whirlwind of a package, even if there was only for half a season of Shohei Ohtani. They didn't do it. If anything, they did the complete opposite and bringing in vets to try to supplement the roster, and then obviously ultimately going nowhere. I'm pretty sure if you ask any other GM, they ship out Shohei Ohtani 10 times out of 10. But I guess I understand. I think it was more trying to just supplement, trying to get Mike Trout and Ohtani in this case back to the playoffs, but obviously it didn't happen. Um, and it's just the idea that bringing in guys like Tim Anderson, bringing in guys like Soler, Moncada, these are all guys that could be on pretty tradable contracts come July, August. And I honestly see them, like, especially if it takes a turn for the worst, like by the deadline, which obviously we can all assume is most likely the case. You're going to see guys like a Soler in a package, probably get sent back to the Braves on some Adam Duvall shit, but him, Darno, like just even Kikuchi, like Kikuchi, he showed when he got traded to Houston, he was he was very, very good, especially when in Houston. And you can see guys get shipped out halfway through the year and then try to bring back prospects. Obviously, they've been pretty aggressive when it comes to young guys, calling them up like Shanuel. Um, so we'll see. They've also signed Kenley Jansen. Kenley's probably gonna be somebody else you can probably trade halfway through the year. Obviously, Kenley's probably gonna keep playing until he keeps breaking closer records and whatnot. So, um, but regardless, I get to Mike Trout. Mike Trout, obviously the face of your franchise. Like I said already earlier, he's healthy. He's one of the best players in baseball. But even and pretty much to discuss the over unders, like if Mike Trout's healthy, that's the only way I could see them being anywhere remote and over here. But I'm still gonna say an under because like in my mind, and I'm gonna stay set on this until the trade deadline, like the Angels should look to move Mike Trout. And also Mike Trout should look to leave. And like I've discussed this with Dom. I believe I've discussed this with you a few times. Like, I feel like the best team to use somebody like Mike Trout would be the Philadelphia Phillies. And I just think it would be too. It's too. Like I look at Philadelphia and I feel like their core, like the window for them, is going to be on a bit of the decline. Obviously, Trey Turner's 32, Bryce Harper is in his mid 30s already. And you put Mike Trout in a position like that, is a New Jersey kid, of course, South Side of Jersey, and obviously, I guess people, because I don't know the like the politics in that case of like I guess people don't claim people from South Jersey and Jersey, something like that. I don't know, but regardless,
You would know more
regard
about that than I would, considering you live
yeah,
on the East
that's
Coast.
very true. But like again, like New Jersey's hours away from where I live. But that regardless is neither here or there. But regardless, I believe Mike Trout grew up I believe he's an Eagles fan. Actually, I believe he grew up
Die
watching.
hard,
So
die
like
hard. He's at like they show pictures of him at least a couple of times a year at Eagles games. Like that's like the one. Like he's a diehard Eagles fan.
and then I remember seeing the photo of him in a 76ers jersey. And it just didn't look right on him at all, just because like the
That's
way he's
gross.
built. But
That's gross.
but yeah, seeing him in Philadelphia, it just seems like it makes sense. Putting him in a winning situation, and even allowing him to kind of, obviously, because they're swapping him to right field to try to preserve his health.
Yeah.
Put him in a situation where he has way more protection around him in a winning environment. It may not guarantee that he's healthier, but it's putting him in a winning environment. You can only hope. And like in all seriousness, I think something like crazy as it may sound, he may be the healthiest he could be if he gets sent to a different situation. Um, but in any case, trading Mike Trout should be their top priority. But knowing the Angels, like they're going to be the Angels and probably wait till it's far too long, like thereafter to try to move him or something like that. Or maybe Mike Trout in his heart of hearts doesn't want to leave, but like I think I speak for a lot of baseball fans in thinking that like they want to see Mike Trout be in a position to win or be in a position to compete because he still only has that one playoff series to his name, and that was back in 2015 when they got stomped on by the Kansas City Royals. So um it's just real it's really sad to look at the current situation of the Angels, especially when you have a generational player like Mike Trout and he's only getting older. But yeah, I'm taking the under on this because I feel the Angels are just going to be huge sellers at the deadline. And yeah, like I even like 71.5 wins, it's pretty generous if you ask me. But like I said, I think their top priority should be moving Mike Trout, and I think other guys like Soler and Neto, and if most of these guys stay healthy, I think a lot of these guys are going to have pretty productive seasons. And then get value for some of these guys, and then kind of see in some young guys like who you want to keep around, and then you go from there. But again, I feel like a true rebuild for the Angels can't come into effect until you move off of your franchise player. And I feel like I'm speaking for all MLB fans and hoping that just send Mike Trout to some place he can win because it's not going to be with the Angels.
Well, you have to also think about this from their perspective in the sense that one, he owns a full no trade clause, and so he has control of wherever he can go. And then two, they really haven't had the ability to move him because of his injuries each of the last couple of years. And so like that also adds a roadblock into this because it's like if I'm another team and like Mike Trout is either injured or has been injured, like do I want I mean again it's all situation dependent. Like sure, if I'm the Phillies, I'd be like, screw it, let's do it. But if I'm like another team who may not be willing, I mean, like obviously I'd be trying to spend if I could, but like that's 35, 36 million on your books. Like you have to ensure that he's healthy and whatnot. And I think like if he's fully healthy up until the deadline, and if he's producing like he has each of the last couple of years, I think it's way more on the table than it has been. But that just hasn't been the case all that much. Like maybe a little bit. Like 2022, he played 119 games, so maybe I'm like misremembering his injuries and whatnot. But like he only played 29 games last year. He only played 82 games in 2023. Obviously, the 2020 season where it was a COVID shortened season, he played 53 of the 60, but then 36 in 2021. Like he hasn't really been on the field that much. And so like that's where it's like you it has to go both ways in the sense that, like I have to be willing to acquire that and trade for that if he's hurt or whatever the case is. I don't remember what the injuries were specifically, but like obviously he's missed a ton of time. And so it's like he kind of has to not prove like I'm sure some of the injuries were fluky, but like he's got to prove that he can stay on the field at his age 33 season. And like he was awesome in the spring. And so hopefully he's able to. I mean, I don't expect anything less. He's got to parlay that into you know success over a full season. But like if he can stay fully healthy, sure, way more on the table. But that hasn't been the case, and so
I
um,
hear I
the
hear you
Phillies
for
are a good
sure.
spot though. Like if
Yeah.
you're that, I think that would be like one of the best spots for him specifically if that was the case.
I the reason I picked Philadelphia because I feel, and that's taken into account what you were saying with the trade clause and everything.
Yeah.
I think that the type of ambitious, aggressive move that Dave Dombrowski would try to make, especially. You
Whatever
don't think so?
prospects are
Yeah.
just out the door.
Yep. Just send them gone.
Yeah,
Like
send them, dude.
they can make it work. They don't care. So like, I'm just naming names, obviously. Like I'm not saying, oh, they're gonna throw out Andrew Painter or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
but
mean, the Angels would be dumb enough to probably accept whatever package that Dave Dombrowski would like be like a first offer type thing where it's just like, yeah, we'll give you this guy, this guy, and this, and it's just
I'll
like,
take it.
yeah, I'll take it. Because the Angels, as I've kind of hinted at, aren't a smart organization.
Yeah, I
That's
think it's
neither here nor there.
I think just to kind of cap it all off, it's like I feel like Philadelphia, it's like it would be intriguing, or it would be good enough for Mike Trout. Like Mike Trout would probably love the idea on going to Philadelphia, but like you said, it's kind of up to him. For one, if he has a good bill of health, because we know if he's on the field, he's disgusting. He's still disgusting. I feel like him playing right field, like people are kind of counting him out. There was like a list somewhere. I don't know if it was MLB.com or ESPN or whoever. They're ranking the best right fielders in the game, and he was like eighth. And I'm like, are we kidding? But, but like I said, good bill of health because we know like the talent levels there, and I guess his willingness to want to be in a different situation because who knows? It's like he signed this contract a couple years ago, and he's like, I probably want to be an Angel for life, but who knows? Things change. People like feelings change, and then you're in a different situation. Like like I would say if I was in his case and I saw Shohei Otani go to a different team, and then obviously this is kind of an anomaly because you create the best team in baseball with sending him to the Dodgers, but you see him go, and it's probably not no animosity, but it's man, I could probably really be just like him. Like I can be in a better situation where we're winning. Not necessarily World Series, but like I'm seeing the playoffs consistently because the Dodgers are gonna keep making the playoffs, especially with somebody like him on the roster.
Are you
But,
sure? No, I'm just kidding.
well,
Do
I
wait,
mean,
okay, well, what if the Dodgers traded for Mike Trout? What would you do?
I think that would be pretty funny. I
That
think
would be
would
pretty funny, just
that
because
would be
everyone
pretty
would
fun.
be mad. But
Yeah, but it's funny because you would think I don't know if it's just like a difference in like sport culture, and this is like the last thing I'll say about this whole situation. But like if it was the NBA and you saw like the Celtics trade for um, I'm trying to I don't know, like let's say Anthony Davis because I guess like the injury thing, and even though he's still really good, and obviously this isn't an NBA episode, but like the Celtics trade for Anthony Davis, like the best team in basketball, gets another big name, that sort of thing. And then like he's healthy for however long, but
I would be
like
less. It'd be less funny than the scenario I just presented to you.
no, but you see what I mean? Because NBA fans will look at me like, man, like they'll think negative about it. And like for somebody in my case as a baseball fan, I'm like, this is great.
Not that I ever give a fuck about the ratings because I don't.
Yeah.
Um, Most people do. I don't understand why, but the ratings would go up if that actually happened, just because of oh, we have someone to hate, or let's watch them. Like the Warriors,
Yeah. Like
people love.
the
I
perception.
when I was in high school, I disliked the Warriors, and I also was surrounded by a bunch of Warrior fans. because of where I lived, and I was like, not I wasn't the LeBron guy, but I liked LeBron more than most.
Yeah.
Um, but again, this isn't an NBA show, so let's.
we'll we'll move on. We'll move on to another NBA city in Sacramento, but obviously talking about the Sacramento
Mm.
A's, not no longer the Oakland A's. But
Mhm.
so Oakland moves out of not Oakland, sorry, Dom. The Athletics move out of Oakland and Sacramento, and they end up spending a little bit of money in free agency, bringing in Luis Severino. Also, they signed Brent Rooker and Lawrence Butler to extensions, and like for me, I I like this A's team. I'm like it's really hard for me not to say Oakland. Um, that's a topic for a
We
different
just
day.
lost a viewer because of you, potentially more.
No, 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 no. Please don't go. But with Sacramento and with the Athletics, like, um, I think they are a dark horse to compete in the AL West. And I'm talking about their over under before I continue. It's 72 and a half. And I'll take the lead on this one. I'm taking the over on the A's. 72 and a half wins. I feel like I'm not gonna say it's disrespectful. Obviously, they're still on the come up from a couple of 100 lost seasons, losing some of the big names of their franchise like Matt Chapman and Olson. But having guys like Brent Rooker, he the last two seasons, or maybe even more, but I know the last two seasons been fantastic, a fantastic hitter at the plate. Last year, one of the best hitters in the game. And Lawrence Butler signing him to an extension this early in his career, I feel like was a great move on their part. And he's only going to get better. Like there was a streak, I think, in August or in the second half of the season, and he was hitting a home run like pretty much every day for like a week or something crazy like that. Or like through a few consecutive at bats or something. I just know he was going off. So they have other cool, good pieces. They obviously they brought in Severino. Mason Miller, a dog, and one of the best closers in the game right now. You have JJ Bleday. What else do they got? Oh my goodness, I'm forgetting names now, but um, sorry. But yeah, like they have a lot of good pieces, a lot of fun pieces. I think Sacramento, I think the A's are going to be a fun team to watch this year, and I'm kind of happy that they're kind of on the upswing again. Maybe I'm a year too early in terms of them in terms of regular season success, but I'm gonna hedge my bets and I'm gonna take the over on the Sacramento A's.
I think you are a little bit too early on it for the ace thing, but
Okay.
I'm also taking the over with this. I think something to take into account with the A's is they're moving out of the Coliseum and into a more hitter-friendly ballpark, and I think that will play well for Butler. I think that will play well for Rooker, even more so for Shea Langoliers, Gio Urshela, Seth Brown, a couple of these like Soderstrom. I know Jacob Wilson was like I think their top prospect or one of their top prospects. He's mashed in the minors. I think he got like a cup of coffee last year and didn't do much, but like they're in a hitter friendly park now. So I think that's something to take into account. And I think that'll be a boost for them. Conversely, it may also be a boost for their opponents. We'll see. Um, but like, and I know like Sacramento, I saw somewhere, I was trying to find it before uh we logged on, but I couldn't. I want to say it was Baseball America or Baseball Prospectus. They do like park factors, and Sacramento was like I think it was like the second most pitcher friendly park in the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, which is like a very hitter friendly league. But even then, I think relative to MLB average, I think it'll like be on par, if not be one of the more hitter friendly parks. We'll see that. We'll see how that develops. Like I can't say for certain, but it's far more hitter friendly than the Coliseum, and I've been to both. So that I can say was somewhat certainty. Um, or maybe I'm just wrong on that too. I guess who knows. Um, but Luis Severino, they got Jeffrey Springs, JP Sears. Like this team's solid. I don't. To me, I still think they're like a 75-ish win team, and I think their ceiling is probably like 77, 78 wins. Like I don't really see this team like being all that like awesome, but I still think there are pieces there uh to work with. It's funny that they like as soon as they moved out of Oakland, they just started spending money. That's kind of like such an fu to A's fans. I think they needed to There I think there was like a reason behind. I can't remember the exact reason, but like they move out of that park and whatnot, and now they're just spending money and they move out of the city, and it's just like that like really sucks to the most loyal part of that fan base. Um Mason Miller's very good. I didn't even mention him. Like he's beyond awesome. I don't know if I mean he probably will replicate to an extent. Like he was so good last year, it's going to be hard to replicate what he did. But they have a decent back end of the bullpen with him. They have a decent rotation. They have a decent lineup. So I'll say over, but like I still think they're not going to be very good in the sense relative to the rest of the league.
Yeah, I think it's me being pretty ambitious talking about the athletics how I am. I'm pretty sure Dom would be pretty happy about it, but shout out to Dom again. But
Well, I mean,
uh,
again, like if you're an A fan like Dom, would you care about this team anymore? I don't know if
I
I would.
a- I asked him. I told him objectively, and I'm gonna have to sit down with him to talk about the A's even more. But I think he like if can recall from the three words or less video that we did. Make sure you guys go check that out if you haven't already. He talked about like I made sure to tell him, hey, objectively, without any strings attached, how do you feel about this team? And he said like he likes the team, and for me, it's like being like it's kind of being um like putting over guys like Butler. I think Rooker's gonna have another fantastic season. Like he could be flirting with 40 home runs again. Like who knows?
Yeah.
Like you said, how that ballpark is gonna affect those guys' swings and that sort of thing. But I think it's just more on the fact that, like they were starting, like they became more and more as the season went on last year, a more and more fun team to watch. So I'm just hoping they carry that momentum forward and could get back to being a respectable team again and respectable organization as well, because obviously they're kind of being the butt of a lot of people's jokes because of the move out of Oakland. And obviously, if you ask me, they should have built a new stadium in Oakland because it's so rich and like the Athletics are so rich in the history of baseball, if you ask me. Um, but in any case, I'm optimistic about Oakland, and I think it's more so that teams ahead of them, in theory, are probably going to take a step back. But again, I think it's just me being like that's I guess like my hot take of the video is the Athletics are going to be a competitive team and being a dark horse for the AL West crown. Am I too early? Only time will tell with opening day just around the corner. But um, let's move on to one of the teams that could be ahead of them is the Seattle Mariners. And really, what can you say about the Seattle Mariners? Wow, what's that about?
Slamming the under, whatever it is.
The over under of 85 and a half wins. Why don't you elaborate on that, Matt? On the under for the
No,
Seattle Mariners.
in all like serious, I'm like kind of joking when I say slam the under, whatever number it is. But I'm not very high on this team. Love the pitching staff, specifically Logan Gilbert, who I think like is like a fringe, maybe top 5 arm in baseball. Like at least among starting pitchers. Like I think he's very, very good. Luis Castillo's been on the decline for the last few years. That's a little bit concerning entering his age 32, 33 season. But Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, like they have a very good pitching staff. I know George Kirby's currently hurt. Um, he suffered a shoulder injury late in spring, and so that's unfortunate. But I still think they have like a very good top four with Emerson Hancock kind of rounding that out for now. I think my biggest worry is the offense, and that's why it's just like I know they were good toward the end of last season. I get that. I would feel much greater about it if like Julio Rodriguez kind of performed the way he did the second half of last season, which because I thought he was really good. Like he had a near 900 OPS over his last like 50 games. Like he was he was awesome. But everything else around it, like I can't get excited about no disrespect to these guys. I can't get excited about like Jorge Polanco back. I can't get excited about Victor Robles. I can't get excited about I mean Randy Rosarena's obviously had his moments, but like I'm not very high on him as a hitter. I can't get excited about like JP Crawford. Like I can't. Like good players, but when you're talking about like and obviously their pitching and the defense is going to keep them in games. Like I think that's something important to note, but like I don't think this team has enough pop. And obviously hitting in that ballpark is a mess in and of itself, and so maybe it's not all of their faults, but like I just there I don't have much. I mean, Cal Raleigh's obviously awesome. He just signed a 6-year extension yesterday, I believe, for north of 100 million. Like he rakes when he's able to put the bat on the ball, but sometimes that's even a big question. Um, but other than that, like I don't think this team has enough pop outside of like again, if you're getting an AL MVP like season from Julio Rodriguez, I think that changes the calculus a little bit. And I know understand a lot of these guys were like good in the second half of last season, so maybe I'm being a little bit too mean, but like I just don't think this offense is very good still. And they didn't really do anything to address it. To Justin Turner's point, um, despite having such an awesome rotation and awesome pitching staff, like I 85 and a half, that's a pretty fair, pretty clear under to me.
That's I'm with you in the sense that the Seattle Mariners have a fantastic starting rotation. They have some of the best pitchers in the game as well as really good depth. Um, Andres Munoz in the back end of that bullpen is nasty. That slider's just lights out, and obviously he pumps in 100 miles an hour with his fastball. Um, Kyle Riley, I feel like extending him was a must because he's one of the best catchers in the game. Like, and the thing about the catching position is like if you're serviceable with the glove, but can absolutely rake, you're one of the best in the game. Even if it's not by league standards, if you can put up numbers, you're easily in like one of the upper echelon in terms of catchers in the game.
Alejandro Kirk, who also extended over the weekends, exactly
Yep.
that. Like he awesome with the glove, even better with the bat.
Yeah. With the thing on the offensive side, because obviously there's so much stuff you can say about their pitching that's positive. But obviously we know the bigger weakness is the guys with the bat. Julio Rodriguez, even if he has an MVP caliber season, which we are waiting for, and it's not to say he hasn't been good since being called up in MLB. He's fantastic out there in center field for them, and obviously he's the pinnacle of their franchise at the moment. Um, I just think you look at guys that they try to bring in to supplement that offense. Randy Arozarena, he sucked last year. He was barely a 2020 guy. Jorge Polanco, that signing or that move was a bust, and then re-signing was a head scratcher. You have guys like even previous years when they brought in Teoscar Hernandez, like he was like he put up good counting stats, but just overall him playing in that ballpark was horrible for him. And then you see what he does when he goes to LA. Mitch Garver, he was another guy that they brought in, and kind of started falling off a little bit. Looking here, like JP Crawford, he took a step back when the year before he was he an All Star? I don't know if he was an All Star, but regardless, even thinking about it now, like Victor Robles almost saved their season. Like he saved his career by going to Seattle and having a bit of a bounce back, and then they signed him to an extension. So you gotta you have to hope that some of these guys kind of figure it out. Like um, I get it. That ballpark they play in is not the most hitter friendly ballpark. It's a pitcher's paradise for sure. And it's funny how they have arguably the best rotation in baseball, and like you're hoping for guys who have kind of had a track record since being in Seattle of kind of falling short offensively. So you kind of that puts more pressure on Julio Rodriguez to take that next step in his career. We already look at him as a superstar, but yeah, um now it's gotta be like undisputed. Like he in MVP conversations, like one of the best overall players in the game. Um and I feel like the supporting cast has to do a better job, and also the Mariners have to do a better job about you know, adding talent instead of like, yes, I get it, a bunch of homegrown guys. That's great. Um, like pitching staff, great. You re-sign Kyle Riley, great. But what are you going to do to bring in players to supplement that offensive, like the lack of offense? Like I get it. Throughout the regular season, like there might be a lot of 2-1 games that they win, and it's like a lot of low scoring games. That's fine. But there's going to come a time if the bats are quiet, pitching's not going to score runs for you. So it's stuff like that to think about, and and again, it's like I'm gonna take the slight under. Like I think if they even got one more impact back in that lineup, they could easily like the AL West could be theirs. But it just seems like they're not willing to do that, and you're willing to kind of waste another year of the another year of Julio Rodriguez and another year of having a top rotation in the league. It's like on the pitching side, you're more or less set. Get another bat. That's why I'm taking the under on these guys because I feel like there's teams out there that are teams in within their own division that could easily overtake them if they have one bad month. So regardless of that fact, I'm taking the under on Seattle, like 85 and a half wins. I still think they're obviously going to finish above 500. I just think they're not going to be they could be in the mix of a division crown, but I just think that they're not going to be as equipped as people may have them out to be. I think like obviously pitching may save their season, but it can't be the sole reliance 24/7. You have to get a bat to help Julio Rodriguez in that lineup, and you can't just bank on a bunch of these guys to have bounce backs because for all you know, it could be on the decline. There's no uptick for some of these guys anymore. But again, we it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, like you're banking on career years from most of these guys, including Julio Rodriguez. I don't really think that's a great formula, especially if like Kirby's injury is more serious than we. I mean, obviously, again, they're top four: Gilbert, Castillo, Miller, Wu. Like, it's a very good top four. One of the best top fours in baseball, some may argue. But again, like you're banking on career years or big time performances from most of these guys, and I don't think that's a sustainable formula. Like, I
There,
think there needs to be, and again, like this is kind of just who the Mariners have been. Like they've gotten close, but they haven't. It's not enough. And this is just kind of who they've been for the last 2 decades or something like that. Like it's been like that for a long, long time. Like they've been good, not great. Like that's just, and they don't they're not will they don't have the sense of urgency is what I would say.
I don't want
Maybe I'm being a little bit too brash with that, but
no. I think I don't want the same thing that happened to Ichiro and that happened to Felix Hernandez that happened to any of these guys on this current roster.
yeah.
And but it's more like they're playing on a very thin line from catastrophe because I've never been on the offensive side. Like you're one injury away from being like, well, you know, when's George Kirby coming back? You know, Logan Gilbert, what can you give me? You know, Brian Wu, what's up? Like that sort of thing. Like and I think it's also not to mention. I guess it's probably the last thing I'll bring up is like kind of like their reluctance to move off of one of these guys to get that that bat in the lineup. Obviously, like
They tried to get Casas.
they did, and obviously in hindsight, the Red Sox are very smart for not doing that, especially because like they weren't trying to move off of Gilbert. I think they inquired about Gilbert and the Mariners just hung up the phone, that sort of thing. It's like they wanted Casas but didn't want to take on Yoshida and that sort of thing, even if it meant them getting off Castillo and all that. But I'm like, um, at the same time, it's like it's like it was what the same stuff people were giving the Red Sox crap for. It's like you have to trade something in order to get something. Um,
Yep.
and it's like I get it, but you can't like you can't work around the edges and expect it to work every time in your favor. There's gonna come a time you're probably gonna have to move one of these guys if you really want to be serious about it. Because again, at the same time, like if all four of these guys or five, including Kirby, actually, if all five of these guys are disgusting, do you really think they're going to be able to maintain having all those guys on the roster when it comes to having to start shelling out some money for these guys to stay? And then we're gonna look back at like, man, that I don't want to think of the Mariners currently. It's like, man, that team had one of the best pitching staffs ever. I wonder what happened to that. And it's like, but that's all I'm gonna say about the Mariners. But we'll move down to the state of Texas and we'll talk about the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros are in a far different situation. Um, they're slated in for 87 and a half wins, and by comparison to the rest of these over unders, they would be in line to win the division. If you ask for my honest opinion, I think that's a load of horse crap. Um, they lost over the course. They like a bunch of, or probably 90% of the pieces from their run over the last decade are gone. Like obviously, you still have Jose Altuve, who's apparently going to be splitting time with Jordan Alvarez, who's our other star that's still there, splitting time in left field. Um, And like I don't know how to feel about this Houston Astros team. Matt, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Hand it over to you. I want to ask you, how do you feel about Houston? Like they have obviously they have some of the mainstays like Altuve, Alvarez, Yander Diaz is good in the bullpen. You still have Hader. Like how do you feel? 87.5 wins.
This team ain't done yet. This team is not done yet. I mean, I don't think they win the division. I actually have or Texas winning the division, but like I still think Houston's a playoff team. If I were to like bet my life on it, I think it's like a 55-45 they make the playoffs. Um I don't think there's a better ballpark in baseball that fits Isaac Paredes than this ballpark. Like like if you looked at his stat cast and like how many of his either like extra base hits or outs or whatever the case, like homers with the Crawford boxes, several of his hits that were not home runs will be home runs if he's playing in Houston. Like he's got incredible pull side power, and I think that's going to help him out a lot. I think the swing factor though is like how healthy will Christian Walker be at 34? How healthy will Jordan be? Like will those two guys specifically be healthy for a full season? Altuve and left is a little bit weird. Like this goes back to what I was saying about Jason Dominguez. Like when we were doing our AL East one, I don't care what he's doing right now in the field because I think Jose Altuve, as good as he is, like he's going to improve over time, and it's not going to look like a disaster. But it kind of has looked like a disaster in spring. Um, just with him like tracking fly balls and catching. I think he'll be good enough and whatnot to get used to it. Cam Smith's very interesting. Former top 15 pick, gets traded in the Kyle Tucker trade. He's only played 32 minor league games, and yet he's on the opening day roster after just mashing. Like he
Talk
mashed
about
in spring.
ambitious.
He mashed in the 32 minor league game. Like I don't know what to make of that, but like he's also someone that like if he's like a league average or above league average hitter, like I think that's really good for them specifically. Their rotation is, I think they're like Framber, who's in a contract year. He's gonna be trying to pitch for something. Hunter Brown, who I thought was really good last year. Blanco, I think is due for some regression, but I still think he's like a good, like really good number three. And then Eric Getty, who could break out this season. Like that's a good top four. Like I know it's not super, sexy or whatever the case is, but like they have some pieces here. Obviously, um, their bullpen, like Josh Hader, Brian Abreu, so on and so forth. Like they have some quality arms there. Like I think this will be a team that I don't think they will like, win 95, 100 games or whatever they like used to, but like I still think this team will absolutely be in the running for yet another AL West title. So I'll give them an over. I think they get to I think they kind of finished with like the same record as they did last year, 88, 89 wins. I think they finished with 88 last year, but I think they get there again this year.
Talking about the Altuve move to left, it's slated. I'm looking at Fangraphs right now, and it has Mauricio Dubon at second base. And I could have sworn that Mauricio Dubon can is somewhat of a utility guy. Like pretty much what I'm trying to say, he could play outfield. I'm like
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's played left field.
So like what I'm saying is, why would you move Altuve to from second base where he's been playing majority of his career to left? I feel like there may come a time where they kind of see like, yeah, this isn't working out. So we'll just like Mauricio, Jose, you guys switch. Like
N-
that sort of thing.
Not that this holds so much weight because I know defensive metrics in baseball, defensive metrics in any sport can be a little bit like weird to look at and they can be a little bit misleading. But like if you look at Jose Altuve's numbers each of the last few seasons, like they've been really bad at second base. Like I just pulled it up on Fangraphs. Minus 15 defensive runs saved at second base in 2022, minus 13 in 2023, minus 13 in 2024, like minus 8 outs above average last year as well at second base. Like That's that's really bad. And again, I'm not saying that he's like a bad defender or anything, but like the last few seasons, the numbers would say analytically he should be in a different position. And like I don't know if left field specifically is the one for him. We'll we'll see, I guess. But like statistically speaking, he's been really bad at second. Again, not saying that that should hold all of like that should be like your end all be all that should, but like been pretty bad. So like that's kind of where it's like I that and like obviously Houston's like a forward thinking organization. Like they buy into analytics, they use it. Like a lot of these organizations do in baseball, not even just in baseball, but in sports. But like so like I understand their perspective from that angle. And Dubon hasn't been as bad. Like he's each of his last two seasons when he's played second, 7 combined defensive runs saved, 1 out above average each of the last 2 seasons. Not a huge sample, obviously, because he's not the everyday second baseman or hasn't been. He played mostly left field, ironically enough, last year. But I think that's like if you're looking for like a counter argument, I think that's the justification for it. Not saying
I
it's right or wrong, but I think that's kind of where they're leaning or what
I
they're
can
looking.
I can understand from that point of view, maybe trying to do a better job at hiding him because obviously left field is obviously not to kind of shit on anybody who plays left field, but left field's kind of like the place you put players that like kind of like guys out of position more or less. And Houston, like any sort of fly ball hit to him that goes over his head is probably going to be gone anyway. So um
But he's got to learn how to play the wall.
yeah, that too. It's like, it's not, and even the little alley when the wall kind of meets, like when the wall
Yeah,
ends and like, the further back on the warning track, that sort of thing. Um, like there's probably gonna be some bumps in the road, or there might be a point where it's like, man, it's like it's brutal. So like we may have to do something about it because the problem is your other best hitter also can't play the field like that, or like you wouldn't want Jordan Alvarez to play the field like that anyway. Um, like he makes his money being one of the scariest hitters in the game. And if you ask me, they're one Jordan Alvarez injury away from being like a very scary team, and I mean that in the worst sense. Um, Cam Smith, I'm excited for. I think they were pretty ambitious when trying to call him up this soon. Just a shade over 22 years old. I think he has a lot of potential to really make an impact, and I think they're going to need that. Um, but yeah, like the other like Jake Myers playing center field, it's like doesn't get you excited, like you gotta hope. Like I guess like I can understand where people could be thinking with the Astros, like they're still the best team in the AL West until they're not. I think Framber Valdez, talking about the pitching side, I think Framber Valdez, like to your point, in a contract year, I think he's gonna ball out, and I think he might be on some Carlos Correa type of stuff and be like maybe a top 5 pitcher in the game this year. You never know, especially with a contract year on the line. Um, but yeah, like just I don't know, it's just something feels different about this team, and it's like um,
yeah,
not in a good way, in a sense.
yeah,
Like Paredes, like he could probably have a career year out there in Houston. Christian Walker, like there's a reason he went to Houston. I think like he's the last few years been a very very good offensive third baseman and defensive first baseman. Excuse me.
yeah.
And him playing there, like I feel even though with age, like his swing is built for a ballpark like that, and he can still be productive over the course of the next few years as he gets older. But but yeah, I don't know. Like this Astros team worries me. And yeah, I guess I guess we'll see it. I guess they're banking on a young guy in Cam Smith to produce very well, and they're hoping guys like Walker and Diaz to kind of stay the course. Like Walker in this case, kind of like staying the course of what he was doing in Arizona. Diaz being a nice breakout. Um, but yeah, I don't know that's all really I'm going to say about Houston. Um, but moving on to Texas
I
with
got
the
one more
Rangers.
Houston thing. It's
Okay,
also very funny that Cam Smith is also playing out of position because he came up as a third baseman and now he's going to be a right fielder because they have so many they have so many third basemen with Paredes with like it. I want to throw that in there because that's also kind of funny. Like two of your starting outfielders projected on opening day are playing out of position, so that could very well blow up in their face. I don't know. I haven't watched Cam Smith play right field, admittedly. Maybe he's been awesome this spring. I can't say I've tracked it all that much. All I know is he's just can like every level of baseball that he's played, whether it's single A, high A, double A, like in small samples, he's rigged. And so like that's where that's the appeal. I don't know how good of a defender he actually is. We're about to find out. Um like for certain. We're about to find out. And they're also trying to bank on like, you know, could Jeremy Pena, like I know he especially after that World Series run, he was lauded to be a better hitter than I think he's proven over a longer sample. Um Yainer Diaz, can he, continue to be like a solid offensive catcher? Not great, solid. Like you're banking on multiple things here in addition to the health of some of these guys. And so like you're right. I do think there is reasonable concern. You also mentioned Jake Myers. I want to he talk about Altuve in left field. If we're talk about Altuve in left field and Cam Smith in right, Jake Myers isn't the worst defensive catcher to have playing in between those two guys, just in case that there's a big screw up somewhere, because he's a really good defensive center fielder. His bat stinks, but I don't. I his he provides like a decent amount
Tremendous
of
value.
value, and so I think like if anything, that's the appeal with him, considering the corners of the guys that he's playing next to have never played the position before ever in their professional careers, and so that
Probably give some good insight.
yeah, it's gonna be an adventure for both Altuve and Smith as well as Myers because it's gonna be he's used to playing with guys probably who've played the position and he was next to one of the best defensive outfielders in baseball or one of the best in Kyle Tucker. It's not the case anymore, so it could very easily blow up in their face as much as it could help them.
Yeah, and maybe they can use a lefty bat because looking at Fangraphs, holy shit, and Jordan is the only lefty bat they have in there right now. But that's neither here or there. I guess we'll see how this Houston team plays out in 2025, and a few hours now at this point when you really start jotting it down. But moving on to Texas Rangers, a lot of people could be seeing them as on the come up once again, bounce back. Obviously, the World Series hangover last year, a lot of injuries, bullpen still, especially losing Kirby Yates, who's their best reliever last year, doesn't help. But they made a lot of moves, and I think this team is going to be really fun. They're slated at 85.5 wins. For me, I am taking the over on the Texas Rangers. I think they're the team that is going to win the AL West. You got Marcus Simeon, still one of the best second basemen in the game, tremendous with the glove. I really love Marcus Simeon as a player. I think he still has a lot left in the tank. He's going to be entering his age 35 season, but he's always been one of the best offensive second basemen in the game of baseball, and obviously coming up as a shortstop. And then I feel like his defense got better when he slid over the second base. Um, Playing next to Corey Seager, like that's still probably one of the best up the middle duos in the game in terms of just star power. Corey Seager to me is one of the best shortstops in the game. Like I could probably even make an argument for these best shortstop in the game, and I feel like that isn't get talked about enough. Like you can talk about Gunnar Henderson and others, but Corey Seager has a track record, and the dude is a absolute monster, and he's a freak of nature. Um, just more about him maintaining a good bill of health throughout the course of the season because obviously that World Series run they went on. If you look at his regular season stats, he played like I believe like he was in line for having probably one of the greatest hitting seasons by a shortstop ever before he went down with an injury. And although I'm pretty sure he didn't mind the consolation prize of being World Series MVP for the second time, but you have like I'm just looking at the names in their lineup offensively. Like you have Wyatt Langford that like you're waiting for the breakout season for him. Jock Peterson they signed. He's still like just a tremendous hitter, especially when it comes to DH. Adolis Garcia is too good to be playing as bad as he did last year. Josh Young, really good third base option. Leody Taveras as like your seven. He probably will be the nine hitter because Jake Berger and Jonah Heim. Jake Berger hit 30 home runs last year. Like Tavares, really good center fielder in terms of like what he brings to the table. And then also they had guys like Gashioka, Ezekiel Duran on the bench. Josh Smith was really good for them last year too, especially with the absence of Young. Kevin Pillar. after he said he was going to retire. He said, "I'm going to Texas, baby." Um, when it comes to the starting rotation, like I'm really hoping that Jacob Degrom can kind of get back, even if he's healthy. I don't need to worry about what you can expect from Jacob Degrom. I still think if Jacob Degrom's healthy, he is still one of the best pitchers in baseball. Nathan Eovaldi is going to be their opening day starter. I love Nathan Eovaldi. He's a proven, postseason dog. Like, I like some names. Like, I'm unsure about Kumar Rocker. Jack Leiter kind of got hit around a lot last year. Um, and then kind of going further down the line into the bullpen this time, because obviously this is like the weakest point for me in terms of the bullpen. Chris Martin, like obviously I saw what he did in Boston, one of the best relievers, especially for the Red Sox, probably like their second best reliever. And he's still kicking. I believe this might be his last or second to last year. Luke Jackson, I feel like any Braves fan could tell you way back in the day, like he was very volatile reliever. So like you got guys like Holy Milner and Sean Armstrong, like kind of guys you're not super excited about. It's like if the Rangers want to get back to the World Series, I think it's going to be on like how it was when they won it back in 23, where it was like the offense kind of carried that team all the way through with kind of like solid to good starting pitching performances. And then like the bullpen was, like you're relying on a lot of like the same guys that you usually probably wouldn't, or not necessarily, but like you have one or two guys that you just go to over and over and over again. But yeah, like I really like this Rangers team. I think this Rangers team is poised to have a big year. Even if it's not a team success, in terms of team production, like this team can probably lead the league in home runs and could probably rival the home run record at 307. But um, I
Let's
really like
calm
the trade.
down with that. I'm just kidding.
It's like, all right, dude, you're starting to get carried away. Um, I just really like what this Rangers team is looking like on paper. But I'm gonna hand the floor over to you, Matt. Like, what do you think about Texas?
Who's their manager and what was he famous for?
It was Bruce Bochy, and I'm just gonna say this. I may not be the answer you're looking for, but he's pretty much he's a World Series winning manager, and I guess a fun fact that people may or may not know, he's never lost a game seven.
I didn't know that. That's a good fact.
I believe.
The
I may
answer
be
that I
wrong.
was looking for in San Francisco, he's very famous. Every other year. It
Every
was
other year. That's right.
it
That's
was
right.
every other year. Or at least maybe not famous for, but like every other year his teams would play like maybe take a little bit of a step back and then boom, World Series. I mean, again, 2010, 2012, 2014. Not to say the Rangers are going to win the World Series again. That's not what I'm saying. It could be on
I
the
was
table,
right.
sure. In a
Sorry to
wide
interrupt.
open American league, certainly on the table. Um, but I'm taking the over. Every other year, baby. Every other year. They took us a
Taking the
little bit
over.
of a step back last year. World Series hangover. They're back. They're back. They're back. That's not probably not the best analysis. You went over their lineup: Simeon, Seager, Langford. Who, if you just look back at his last 40 games last year, Wyatt Langford, he had a 900 plus OPS with on a 40 homer pace over 162 games. Like he was awesome to end last year. I know that's an extrapolated sample, but he was really good. Adolis Garcia, Josh Young, Jake Berger, who again, if Josh Berger or Jake Berger's your 8 hitter, like you're in a really good spot. Burgers for everyone, by the way. Um, I do have questions about the rotation. Like Eovaldi's 35, uh, and he's your number one. Like that is a little bit concerning to an extent. He's a guy who can eat innings for you. Like he's not going to give you ace level production, but he'll be innings eater. I think the swing is Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. Rocker was a little bit of a rough spring for him specifically. He got hit around a little bit, but the underlying metrics suggest that he was okay. It was kind of the opposite with Jack Leiter, which again, both of those guys were former top three picks once upon a time. And so like I know Rocker I think had Tommy John a couple years ago. Um, they flashed they pitched a little bit last year, not a lot, wasn't great when they did. I think Rocker was better than Leiter if I can remember correctly, but like I don't recall it ever being like great from either one of them. And so like those two guys are like I think the swing in terms of how good this team can be rests a lot on those two guys just because of how the rotation looks. Jacob DeGrom hasn't made at least 7 or 16 starts in a single season since like 2017 or something like that, like something crazy. And so if he's able to stay healthy for like 15, 20 starts, like that's probably asking a lot of him, but or no, excuse me, 2019, not 2017. Still a long time. Again, before COVID-19, that's a long time since he's been fully healthy. And like we've seen what he can do when he is fully healthy. And I know his velocity was down a little bit in spring intentionally. Like that was something that I remember reading something that he did talk about. Like he's throwing as hard this spring as he typically has been. We'll see how that, carries into the regular season. I still think he can be a really good pitcher when he's on the mound. Um, but like their rotation does have questions. Chris Martin, Garcia, Luke Jackson, fine. Nothing crazy. Their bullpen was horrendously bad when they did win the World Series, which I kind of find it funny because usually that's not the case when it comes to teams who win the World Series. Like usually having a good bullpen is one of your most important traits. Not for the Rangers, or the Diamondbacks for that matter. Their bullpen also was trash that year, but they lost to the Rangers. Like I agree with you to an extent. Like this offense will have to carry, and I think this offense can be very very explosive. But like for them to do what they did 2 years ago and to be in contention to win the American League, I think there has to be a move to get another arm or two at some point. And we'll see at the deadline if that actually comes into fruition or not. But no, this lineup rakes, this lineup mashes 85.5. This is my team to win the division. Over. Bruce Bochy effect. Over.
I was correct. I made sure to fact check myself. He has never lost a game 7 in the postseason. So I mean, I guess you can use that luck depending on what teams you run into in October. But obviously that is a long ways away. But I think it was just a fun fact nevertheless. But yeah, there's not much more I can say about this Rangers team. Like I think this team like has all the has or at least four. I would say four out of the five tools I guess covered. Um, I guess in that like metaphorical sense, like they have nearly every box checked. I guess is a better way of putting it. Um, like the bullpen is like you said is like probably the scariest part about it, but and it kind of sucks now because they probably could have really used someone like Kirby Yates, but um, that is someone we'll talk about when we discuss the National League West, which is the last division that we're going to be talking about next time. So, guys, if you did enjoy us talking about the American League West, let us know down below. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video around with your friends. Check us out on VendettaSportsMedia.com to stay up to date with all your favorite sports, especially with the MLB season coming back in full swing tomorrow. And also stay up to date with Vendetta Sports Media to check out Matt's stuff, whether it's the NBA, MLB, like a lot of great stuff goes in on that website. So we'd love for you guys to check it out, and we'd love for you guys to subscribe here at Vendetta Media. A lot of big stuff going on here, and we would love for you guys to join the ride. But with all that being said, that's been Matt Hannafin. I've been Jermaine, and we'll see you guys next time for the National League West.